These women spent their lives dazzling us, only to leave the stage in ways that feel painfully unfair. A scarf caught in a car wheel, a heroic swim that drained the last breath, a single jealous bullet in a motel room. Their endings are not tabloid shock lines. They're gut-punch reminders that talent, beauty, even love itself can't bargain with destiny. So take a breath, hold it close, and join me as we trace the fragile line between triumph and tragedy, because every name on this list once believed they had so much more time. Isidora Duncan. Picture a woman who rejected ballet slippers for bare feet and silk scarves that floated like brushstrokes in the air. Isidora Duncan was revolutionary, passionate, and just a little bit bohemian, famous for improvising dances to Beethoven under open skies. On the evening of September 14, 1927, she stepped into a friend's open-top sports car in Nice, tossed one of those trademark scarves around her neck, and waved to the crowd with cinematic flair. Seconds later, the trailing fabric snagged the rear wheel spokes. The car lurched, the scarf pulled taut, and Duncan was yanked out, her life ending almost instantly. Witnesses froze, powerless. It happened so fast that the driver thought he had hit a pothole. In one surreal moment, the very accessory that symbolized her freedom became a fatal tether. Newspapers struggled for words. Drama, irony, fate. Today, every dance student who ties a ribbon on stage has heard the cautionary tale. Genius sometimes flirts too closely with danger, and a single careless gesture can silence even the boldest artist. Kita Charmaine Maxwell. If you hummed "If You Love Me" in the 90s, you felt Charmaine Maxwell's voice wrap around the hook like velvet. Offstage, she was grounded, balancing motherhood and music. On February 28, 2015, she came home from her young son's soccer match, poured a glass of red wine, and put on music to relax. The next minutes remained murky even for investigators, but the sequence was heartbreakingly simple. A stumble, a shattered glass, and a shard that sliced her neck. Panic surged. Blood loss was swift. Her husband discovered her on the floor and called 911, applying pressure and praying, yet the wound proved fatal before paramedics could reverse the damage. No foul play, no drugs, just a tiny domestic misstep that stole a 46-year-old talent. Fans learned the news through a single stunned tweet from bandmate Nikki Gilbert. It was a reminder that huge voices can be silenced by the smallest accidents, and that home, our safest space, can still harbor freak twists of fate. Naya Rivera. Naya Rivera grew up under studio lights, landing her first series at 4, but it was Glee that immortalized her quick wit and powerhouse alto. On July 8, 2020, seeking summer calm amid pandemic headlines, she took her 4-year-old son Josie to Lake Piru, a reservoir ringed by rugged hills. Security footage shows the pair renting a pontoon, snacks in hand. 3 hours later, a patrol found Josie asleep on board, life-jacketed and alone. Dive teams searched for days before locating Rivera's body. Investigators pieced together a mother's final heroic act. Fighting a rip current, she mustered enough strength to hoist Josie back onto the deck, but didn't have breath left for herself. The boy later told relatives, "Mom went under." He also confessed he froze, afraid to throw her the tow rope because a large spider clung to it, an innocent detail that breaks every listener's heart. Rivera's last song was an unspoken lullaby of sacrifice, a parent giving absolutely everything, right down to her final heartbeat for her child's tomorrow, Martha Mansfield. By 1923, Martha Mansfield had shared the screen with John Barrymore and inked a promising contract. While filming The Warrens of Virginia in San Antonio, she slipped into a Civil War hoop skirt coated with cellulose nitrate, then standard for lavish costumes but as flammable as lantern fuel. During a break, she climbed into a parked Model T to rest. A crewman flicked a match. A breeze carried the spark through the open door. In an instant, the gown ignited, flames racing through layers faster than anyone could react. Co-star Wilfred Littell tore off his coat, beating back the fire and searing his own hands, yet Mansfield suffered catastrophic burns. She was rushed to a hospital where doctors fought through the night, but she succumbed at 24. Studio publicists spun it as a tragic mishap, Yet the industry quietly rewrote safety rules for on-set smoking and fabric treatment. Mansfield's brief starburst still flickers in film archives, a warning caption that no script anticipates real-life hazards waiting just outside the frame. Primula Primi Rollo. Primi Rollo brought sparkle to every wartime charity review in London and followed her new husband, rising actor David Niven, to Hollywood sunshine in 1945. One spring night, the couple joined friends, including Tyrone Power, for a house party game of sardines, adult hide-and-seek, where everyone squeezes into the same hiding spot. Searching in dim light, Primi opened what she assumed was a closet door. It was an unguarded cellar entrance. She stepped forward and vanished down stone steps. Guests heard the thud and rushed to find her unconscious with a skull fracture. Surgeons operated, but internal bleeding proved relentless. She died the next afternoon at 28. Niven blamed himself for bringing her to Hollywood's whirlwind. In memoirs, he described her loss as a howling emptiness that never dulled. The tragedy still echoes as a cautionary footnote in Hollywood biographies. Beneath glamour and games lurk unseen drops, and joy can turn into grief between one breath and the next. Sharon Tate. Sharon Tate glowed on screen in Valley of the Dolls, combining comedic timing with ethereal beauty. By summer 1969, she was 8 months pregnant, hosting close friends at the Benedict Canyon home she shared with director Roman Polanski. After midnight on August 9th, Charles Manson's followers cut the phone lines and entered. What followed was a frenzy of violence that Hollywood still shudders to recall. Tate pleaded for her baby's life. The intruders ignored every tear. By dawn, 5 people lay slain, and the word pig was scrawled in blood, an image that burned across television screens worldwide. The randomness amplified the fear. If Sharon Tate wasn't safe, who was? Her death marked the symbolic end of the 60s innocence and triggered sweeping security changes in Los Angeles. When reporters asked Polanski years later how he coped, he said, "You don't, you endure." Tate's legacy now fuels charitable work for victims' rights, proving that light can flicker on even after unimaginable darkness. Judy Garland. From child prodigy at MGM to legendary concert belter, Judy Garland lived decades in the pressure cooker of fame. Battling studio-prescribed pep pills from her teens, she oscillated between sold-out triumphs and hospital stays. On June 22, 1969, in a rented London townhouse, her new husband found her unresponsive in the bathroom. The coroner cited an unintentional overdose of barbiturates. Garland was 47. Fans flooded the streets outside the funeral home, their grief compounded by the knowledge that relentless work schedules and weight-control drugs had ground down a national treasure. Yet the story's cruelest twist is what it did to her children. Liza Minnelli has said every standing ovation she receives carries a whisper from her mother, part pride, part caution. In today's wellness-focused industry, Garland's struggle is Exhibit A for why artists now have on-set counselors and strict medication oversight. Her crystal voice continues to soar on recordings, reminding us that behind every effortless note, there may be a life fighting desperately to stay in tune. Brittney Murphy. Clueless introduced Brittney Murphy as the lovable new kid, and roles in 8 Mile and Girl Interrupted revealed deeper range. By 2009, she was exploring voice acting in independent films, newly married, and renovating a Hollywood Hills home. On December 20th, she collapsed in her bathroom, struggled to breathe, and never regained consciousness. The coroner cited pneumonia compounded by anemia and a mix of over-the-counter cold remedies, ordinary medicines that together tipped her heart into failure at 32. The internet exploded with speculation. Mold, foul play, even poisoning when her husband Simon Monjack died 5 months later of similar causes. Experts eventually pointed to chronic illness, poor ventilation, and delayed medical care. Murphy's soft giggle and wide-eyed warmth now live on in reruns, but her passing underscores an adult truth no script glosses over. Treat every cough that lingers and never self-medicate in silence. Marilyn Monroe. Norma Jean's transformation into Marilyn Monroe is Hollywood folklore, foster homes to photo shoots, comedy roles to Some Like It Hot. Yet, insomnia and studios demanding perfection led Monroe toward a pharmacy of sleeping pills. On August 4, 1962, housekeeper Eunice Murray noticed Monroe's bedroom light still glowing near midnight. A psychiatrist broke in and found her motionless, phone clutched in hand, barbiturate bottles on the nightstand. She was 36, alone, and front-page news by dawn. Conspiracy theories bloomed. Politics, mob ties, lost journals. But autopsy results pointed to acute barbiturate toxicity. While her death wasn't violent, it felt brutal in its loneliness. The most photographed woman in the world, unreachable when she most needed a friend. Modern productions now embed mental health clauses in contracts, in part because Monroe's tragedy taught Hollywood that glamour without support can be fatal. Rebecca Schaefer. Rebecca Schaefer lit up My Sister Sam with natural charm and had just auditioned for The Godfather Part 3. On July 18, 1989, obsessive fan Robert Bardo obtained her address through a private investigator search of DMV records, rang her apartment buzzer, and when she answered, pulled a handgun. The single shot that ended her life at 21 also shattered the illusion that fans keep a respectful distance. Public outrage fueled the 1990 Driver's Privacy Protection Act, shielding home addresses nationwide. Every time a studio now issues security briefings to young actors, Schaefer's name surfaces as the reason. Her mother co-founded the nonprofit Kosh to campaign against stalking, turning personal grief into systemic change, proof that even brief careers can rewrite laws and hopefully save future lives. Thelma Todd. In the early 30s, Thelma Todd traded quips with the Marx Brothers and Laurel and Hardy, then opened a glamorous beachside cafe that lured celebrities and tourists. On December 16, 1935, she was found slumped in a garage car seat above the cafe, engine off, but carbon monoxide fumes thick in the air. The coroner ruled accidental death. Tabloids screamed murder, weaving tales of jealous lovers and mob enforcers. What lingers is the image of a vibrant 29-year-old who survived Hollywood's transition to sound only to lose her life to an invisible gas. Carbon monoxide detectors were rare then. Todd's case later became a teaching point in safety campaigns. Her comedic timing survives on celluloid, yet her final scene remains unresolved, inviting whispers that drift along the Pacific Coast Highway to this day. Betty White. Betty White's inclusion here may surprise you. Her passing on December 31, 2021 was peaceful, not grisly, yet the global reaction proved that heartbreak doesn't require gore. Days before her centennial birthday, media outlets had pre-written tributes and supermarkets stocked commemorative magazines. When news broke that she'd slipped away in her sleep, social feeds flooded with tears emoji and Golden Girls quotes. The sense of loss felt oddly abrupt, as though the universe had robbed us of a party everyone assumed would happen. For creators, her death is a reminder. Even the gentlest exit can rock audiences if the bond is deep enough. White's parting lesson echoes in every family living room. Celebrate your icons while they can still hear you laugh. Carole Lombard. Carole Lombard could deliver a one-liner sharper than any leading man of her era, and she loved a cause. After Pearl Harbor, she joined a war bond tour across the Midwest, raising over $2 million in a single day. Eager to return to husband Clark Gable, she rejected a train ticket and boarded TWA Flight 3 on January 16, 1942. Minutes after takeoff from Las Vegas, the DC-3 slammed into Potosi Mountain, killing all aboard. Investigators blamed a navigation error compounded by blackout rules for wartime. Gable raced to the site, climbing the rough slope amid burning wreckage until rescuers led him back. Lombard's sacrifice symbolized home front bravery. The government posthumously awarded her the Medal of Freedom. Today, her name graces Liberty Ship plaques and airfield memorials, a reminder that sometimes the brightest smiles go dark while serving something bigger than box office returns. Dorothy Stratton. Dorothy Stratton's 1980 centerfold came with genuine screen potential. Director Peter Bogdanovich cast her in They All Laughed, predicting she'd be the next Carole Lombard. Estranged husband Paul Snider saw her success as Escape. On August 14, 1980, He lured her to their old Los Angeles apartment to talk contracts. Police later found both bodies, Stratton shot once, Snyder dead by his own hand. The tragedy jolted Hollywood's view of domestic abuse, sparking hotlines and security protocols for talent in controlling relationships. Stratton was 20, her diary full of unfinished plans. Every year, film students discover her brief performances and ask, what would she have become? The haunting answer fuels advocacy that no rising star should ignore red flags out of politeness. Frances Farmer. Frances Farmer stunned audiences in Come and Get It, but clashed with studio bosses over scripts and salaries. Tabloids painted her as volatile. Courts eventually ordered psychiatric commitments. Farmer endured insulin shock treatments and rumors of a lobotomy, disputed by modern scholars, but symbolic of how society punished outspoken women. She resurfaced in the 50s, hosting a local TV show and staging a quiet acting comeback. Yet decades of trauma culminated in esophageal cancer, and she passed in 1970 at 56. While her death itself wasn't violent, the slow erosion of her autonomy feels brutal. Today, actors' unions cite Farmer when negotiating mental health protections, ensuring that creative fire is met with care, not confinement. Natalie Wood. From Miracle on 34th Street to West Side Story, Natalie Wood grew up under Klieg lights. Friends knew she couldn't swim and harbored a lifelong dread of drowning. Over Thanksgiving weekend 1981, she and husband Robert Wagner cruised off Catalina Island aboard the yacht Splendor with actor Christopher Walken. After dinner and wine, Wood vanished. Her body was recovered hours later in a down jacket and nightgown, floating near a dinghy. Officially, accidental drowning. Unofficially, endless speculation about arguments heard that night. In 2011, the case was reopened. The cause of death updated to drowning and other undetermined factors. Whatever transpired, the cruel irony endures. A woman who fled water in nightmares met it in reality, leaving fans to replay her final scenes with new melancholy. Dominique Dunn. After stealing scenes as Dana in Poltergeist, 22-year-old Dominique Dunn prepared for a series lead in V, the sci-fi miniseries. On October 30th, 1982, ex-boyfriend John Thomas Sweeney arrived at her West Hollywood home to talk. A heated argument moved to the driveway. Neighbors heard screams, dialed 911, and found Dunn unconscious. She never woke from her coma, passing 5 days later. Public outrage intensified when Sweeney was convicted of voluntary manslaughter and served less than 4 years. Dunn's father, journalist Dominique Dunn, dedicated his career to crime reporting, shining light on judicial inequities. Her legacy powers organizations that lobby for tougher penalties in domestic homicide cases, turning a family's heartache into nationwide vigilance. Jayne Mansfield. Jayne Mansfield loved pink convertibles and publicity stunts, but beneath the wiggle walk was a sharp business mind. After a nightclub gig in Biloxi on June 29, 1967, she piled into a Buick with her attorney, driver, and 3 sleeping kids for an overnight run to New Orleans. On a foggy stretch of US 90, their car rear-ended a slow-moving tractor trailer. Jayne, seated up front, died instantly at 34. News photos of the crumpled roof were so shocking that federal regulators soon mandated the underride bar, Mansfield Bar, on big rigs to prevent similar tragedies. Her children, including future actress Mariska Hargitay, survived with minor injuries thanks to backseat positioning. Every time you spot that steel bar beneath a semi, you're seeing road safety reform paid for by Hollywood heartbreak. Susan Cabot. In cult classics like The Wasp Woman, Susan Cabot projected fierce independence, yet her private life revolved around her son, Timothy, born with pituitary dwarfism. Side effects from growth injections caused mood swings. On December 10, 1986, a late-night argument escalated. Timothy struck his sleeping mother with a dumbbell. He called 911, claiming intruders. Police saw holes in the story. Timothy eventually pleaded guilty to involuntary manslaughter, citing diminished capacity. Cabot's death forced tabloids and later true crime podcasts to grapple with disabilities, mental health, and caretaking stress. Her B-movies remain Saturday night popcorn fodder, but the real-life epilogue sparks conversations about support systems that might avert household tragedies. Selena Quintanilla Perez. Selena bridged Mexican cumbia and American pop, selling out the Astrodome in a bedazzled jumpsuit while still only 23. Her fan club president, Yolanda Saldivar, simultaneously managed Selena's boutiques and, as audits later revealed, was embezzling funds. On March 31, 1995, Selena met Saldivar at a Corpus Christi motel to retrieve missing financial records. As Selena turned to leave, Saldivar drew a revolver. A single shot severed an artery. Selena ran to the lobby, naming her assailant before collapsing. The entire border region seemed to pause. Schools held moments of silence. Radio stations played Como la Flor on loop. Saldivar's trial drew OJ-level coverage and ended in a life sentence. Every Latin music award show now honors Selena's legacy, and her story underscores the need for background checks and financial transparency, even in circles that feel like family. Aaliyah. With Timbaland-produced beats and whisper-smooth vocals, Aaliyah redefined 90s cool. After filming the Rock the Boat video in the Bahamas, her team chartered a small Cessna on August 25, 2001. Luggage exceeded weight limits, but pressure to stick to a tight promo schedule won out. The plane struggled on takeoff, stalled, and crashed just beyond the runway, killing all 9 aboard. Autopsy reports indicated the pilot had alcohol and unapproved substances in his system. The National Transportation Safety Board cited overload and improper licensing. Aaliyah was 22. Industry-wide, the accident triggered stricter artist travel protocols, weight checks vetted pilots, and the power for any crew member to abort a flight without career repercussions. Fans still celebrate her birthday by streaming One in a Million, a track whose title now feels achingly literal. Adrienne Shelly. Adrienne Shelly's wry screen presence in Hal Hartley films paved the way for her own scripts, including Waitress, a pie-flavored fable she directed in 2006. Before the film's Sundance debut, Shelly was found hanging from a shower rod in her Manhattan office apartment. Police at first suspected it was self-inflict, but her husband insisted Adrienne had been ecstatic about their toddler and the movie's future. Detectives noticed dusty sneaker prints in the bathtub. They traced them to a 19-year-old construction worker who had argued with Shelly over renovation noise and, in a panic after striking her, staged the scene. Convicted of first-degree manslaughter, he is serving 25 years. Waitress went on to Broadway success, its upbeat finale now mingling with audience tears, a testament to art that outlives violence. Christy Shonne. Christy Shonne electrified Food Network star with Cajun charisma, then married cameraman Joseph Codd and settled in rural North Carolina. 8 months pregnant, she was planning a catering business when neighbor and handyman Robert Jason Owens visited on March 12, 2015. Prosecutors say he accidentally struck Joseph with his truck, then panicked, killing Christy to erase witnesses, later dismembering and burning the bodies in a wood stove. Despite the gruesome details, court coverage avoided sensationalism out of respect for the unborn baby, Skylar. Owens accepted a plea deal for up to 74.5 years. The case spurred North Carolina lawmakers to reevaluate loopholes in fetal homicide statutes, ensuring unborn victims appear in formal charges. Christy's friends honor her each spring by cooking gumbo for local shelters, proving that kindness can still simmer after unthinkable cruelty. Christina Grimmie. At 15, Christina Grimmie uploaded cover songs from her bedroom. Millions clicked, leading to a third-place finish on The Voice and a Warner Music EP. She kept meet and greets free, hugging fans like old friends. On June 10, 2016, after a high-energy Orlando concert, 27-year-old Kevin Loibel approached with 2 handguns and a hunting knife, bypassing light security. Christina opened her arms for a hug. Loibel opened fire, then turned the gun on himself when tackled by her brother. Grimmie died at 22. Within months, venues worldwide tightened bag checks and installed metal detectors for even mid-tier shows. Her family launched the Christina Grimmie Foundation, supporting victims of gun violence. Whenever rising artists live stream from home, they cite Grimmie as proof that screens form genuine bonds, and those bonds deserve real-world protection.